So can undereating make you gain weight, gain body fat, and actually keep you stuck? Just to follow on from the last episode, I'm actually going to answer some questions from the audience. So look, the first question is going to be gold for most of you, because I know a lot of you reached out and you've said that actually you can really resonate with it because you are trying to get better results, lose fat, get your health and body to the next level, but you feel like something's off because you keep spinning your wheels, sabotaging, hitting the off button, or even if it's not that, what I got feedback was that you feel like you're just stuck and you feel you need to eat more. I need to increase my calories, or not even calories. I need to at least change my approach with eating rather than trying to take away and restrict and be in a calorie deficit, because that's not working for me. These are all little snippets of feedback I've had from my audience. So first question, let's get stuck in. Hey Martin, I loved your episode on how undereating can actually make you gain weight. It really hit home. For the last 4 years, I have actually been stuck and in this same cycle. I lose a bit of fat, then I gain it back. Then I diet harder, drop weight again, and it comes right back, sometimes even more. Right now, I'm tracking my food and eating 1,500 calories a day. I weigh 68 kilos, which is about 150 pounds, and I'm training hard, but the scale hasn't moved in weeks. Why isn't this working, and what should I actually be doing? So first and foremost, I got to say, a little disclaimer, it really depends on the individual. Of course, you don't really need me to say that, but what I would do in this situation, right, is first of all, you're saying that it's been a few weeks and the weight's been stuck. Firstly, you need to give it more time following one process. So the reason it's not working is because, number one, you probably need to fine-tune things with the approach. But number two, the main reason, is you're not following through with one path. So I see this happen time and time again. You feel like you're stuck. You don't feel like you can lose the fat. You feel like you lose the weight and gain it back and more. And that's because you were doing what I said at the start. You're restricted. You're trying to be in a calorie deficit, but the approach you're taking simply isn't sustainable. So look, you need to reverse diet. You already know that, right? I already covered all this on the last episode by the sounds of it. Well, maybe you don't know this, but just for everyone else, look, you're eating 1,500 calories, 150 pounds, relatively low calories for sure, based on how much you weigh. That's definitely low calories. So the answer really needs to be, first and foremost, 90% of the time. Obviously, I don't know the exact answer, but I'm 90% sure, haven't spoke to this person in person or asked further questions, but 90% of the people I would ask this question would need to reverse diet, or at least go through a process for a period of time where you focus on building muscle. It doesn't even always have to be reverse dieting or revamping your metabolism. It just means do a building phase, and do more than just maybe one phase, like 4 weeks. Do a whole training program, like a whole season for the year, like 3 months, for example, where you're just focusing on building muscle. And for this individual, you're seeing the weight go up. And this is what happens. People get too attached to that number on the scale. They see the number go up and they actually throw the towel in. And they just repeat that cycle for 10, 20 years, in some cases, decades. In fact, their whole life, I've seen some people be stuck trying to lose the same 5, 10, or even 20 pounds. So you need to focus on building muscle, number one. If you switch the mindset and get this into your head, this mantra, I eat to build. Now, I know you're not going to want to hear that, particularly a lot of you out there. You're probably like, yeah, Mark, that sounds great, man, but I want to actually lose fat. I don't like the belly fat I've got. I'm overweight. I don't like the number on the scales, Martin, and I want to lose it. And I get it. I totally get it, because that's most people who come to me, right? But the question you got to ask yourself is, do you want to lose it, or do you want to actually keep it off life? Because this is a different conversation. It requires a different strategy. It requires you to shift your mindset and actually do your best, in this case in particular, because this person said it's been 4 years since they've been stuck in this cycle of losing fat and gaining it back. You need to do that. You need to go, okay, in fact, for this person, I would get rid of the scales. I would get rid of the scales. Give yourself a target to get rid of the scales for 3 months. Do that for 3 months. In fact, detach as much as you can from the body progress, the physique, and follow a 12-week training program. I offered the Shred Blueprint, I think, in the last episode. In the Shred Blueprint, there's a 12-week program which bloody works if you want to revamp your metabolism. Follow that and get back to me, right? Follow that. This is not as simple as that, obviously. Don't just follow a program. But that is really important, right? So what this person needs to do is they need to send a different training stimulus. If you keep gaining the weight back and you find yourself on 1,500 calories, which again is low, I don't allow any clients to get lower than 1,500 calories. It's a rule I've had for the last, 3, 4 years. I got to a point where I'm like, Under 1,500 calories just don't make sense. Psychologically, I don't care how much you weigh. It's grim for most people being under 1,500 calories. Two, you end up not getting optimal amounts of certain nutrients, and it's actually really hard to get enough of the right types of fats and the right balance of fats when you have such little wiggle room with a small amount of calories. So you need to actually change the training stimulus. Focus on strength training for even just like 3 months. Like I said, follow that program. I think if you guys go back to the last episode, I'm pretty sure I shared that there, right? Click it, put your name in there, boom, done. It's yours. Follow the training program in there. Full body, do some bands on the days in between. Even if you don't follow the program, follow a strength training program. Don't interfere with the signal. You want to speed your metabolism up and lose fat long term, not short term. I can starve you and throw you on a treadmill for a week or two. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose a bit of weight, right? If you can keep it going for a week or two. But then you're going to gain it straight back because that's the terrible strategy. You're going to start paring down muscle. So we need to look at that number on the scales as just one metric of many, right? We've got so many metrics to pay attention to. Even with body, right? With health, we got loads of metrics that I get clients to pay attention to, right? Are we getting good sleep? Are we focusing on the habits like the water, the protein intake? Are you hitting the nutrients or the certain foods I've told you to eat to get the nutrients in that were suboptimal before? Are you training with intent? You know, these big, are you moving? Are you hitting your step target? These are the big rocks and the metrics and the habits. You should be focusing 80-90% of the time for everyone listening to this, including this woman, 80 to 90% of the time, the focus with mindset should be the behaviors that you're focusing on, the habits that you need to nail. The habits you need to nail every single, even if it's prepping food. Why are you not sticking to that? That's the question. Okay, I didn't prep my food. Why didn't you do that? Because that's what's causing you to fall down, lose weight, and gain it back. It's the underlying foundation, which is always going to be your habits. So focus on that. Switch your mindset. Focus on strength. Focus on setting some targets in the gym when you follow a program. A target with your squats, your deadlifts, the foundational movements. Maybe try and get to doing pull-ups. That's what I get female clients doing, right? Some of them anyway, they get to do bodyweight pull-ups. Set yourself other goals, right? Other than like strength, ideally, because that's going to give you better results physically, or weight training related or resistance training related. That's going to switch your mindset. So that's what you need to do first and foremost. Training stimulus, 12 weeks. At least, ideally longer. Focus on strength training. Don't do any cardio. Just do movement. Just stay active. Do plenty of steps. The other thing you then need to do is make sure you have an optimal amount of protein, right? If you weigh 150 pounds, let's just say 150 grams, that'd be perfect, right? Because that's 1 gram per pound of body weight. Now, that's the top end, to be honest. You get away with having like 0.7, 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, but it just gets kind of complicated then with the calculations. I'm not very good at maths. But if you can aim, let's say you're 150 pounds, let's say you can hit a bare minimum every single day of 120 grams of protein, up to 150, great. If you never tracked, and what I'm saying now is going over your head, track your protein for like 2 weeks. Even if it's not all your calories, use an app like MyFitnessPal, track your protein, that's it. The meat that you eat, the eggs and the protein powder, the high protein foods, track them and do that. And aim at 120, like literally, ladies and gents, like forget about all the information that you get out there. I totally understand how overwhelming it can be, right? Magic happens when you get the right training stimulus and you hit consistently the right amount of protein. Magic happens for most people. Then there's some people who are more advanced where it becomes more fine-tuned and more nuanced, right? But for this individual, training stimulus, hitting protein consistently, and then obviously you got to be getting good sleep and managing your stress, right? They're the big rocks. If you do that and do plenty of steps as well, right? If you don't want to change too much at once, but even if you can do an extra 15-minute walk, 30-minute walk, 2,000 steps or whatever a day, if you don't track your steps, get a tracker and track your steps. I'm speaking to this person now or anyone, because then you're aware of it and then you're going to move more. What gets measured can get managed. They're the big rocks. 1, training stimulus, do strength training. 2, make sure you're recovering properly, the right, get good sleep, and make sure you're not overtraining because that'll hold you back too, right? Less is more for a lot of people who are all or nothing because they do loads, like 5-6 days a week training, hits everything, and then they do nothing. So normally less is more for those people. You want to do a bit less and just train consistently and do it properly. Hit a protein target. Ideally track that. Don't guess if you don't know what, that looks like 150 grams of protein. Track it consistently, just protein or ideally calories as well. And then just, if you can move a bit more on top of that, if you can do that over a 12-week period, right? And then obviously with 1500 calories, that's not really sustainable. So again, if you want to focus on, even if you just keep the calories the same, if you track the calories, even if you do this for 4 weeks, follow that program I just mentioned about, you'll get it in the show notes on the last episode in the Shred Blueprint. It's in there with the nutrition stuff. Follow that, do that for 4 weeks, hit protein. You're probably not doing that now, maybe. So track your protein, hit it, even if you stick to 1500 calories, right? And you do strength training, say 3 times a week, plenty of steps on the days in between, consistently hit 120 to 150 grams of protein because you weigh 150 grams, and watch what happens. Magic will happen, and then just follow that through. And then what I would probably do in this case, it really depends beyond that. But if you want, I don't like going below 1500 calories, right? But even if you kept your calories at 1500, right, and moved more, right, the more steps, did the strength training, your calorie output's going to go up. So you're gonna put yourself into a deficit if you do that right over time, even within the first 4 weeks. It depends on where your metabolism is at, but a lot of people are going to create a deficit by doing that because the signal of strength is going to get your body burning way more because it speeds your metabolism up. Movement's going to do that too. Cardio, if you overdo that, that's going to do the opposite. That's going to slow your metabolism down. So they're the big rocks I would get you to focus on there. But what I would say is even better, right? Because again, it's guesswork unless you know your body's ability to lose weight, right? If you've been struggling for 4 years, it's going to take you longer than, you want to focus on that for 12 weeks, but you want to really be focusing on having a strategy. I would say mini building phases and mini cuts. That's what I would be doing with you if I looked over the space of a year. Build some muscle, and then for 4 weeks, focus on losing fat. Maybe 4 to 8 weeks, focus on building muscle, 4 weeks losing fat. But that's a strategy. And with that strategy, right, I'll give you a free metabolic assessment. So how about that? And for anyone who's looking to either lose fat, build muscle, improve their overall health and metabolic health, and essentially live longer, right? Because metabolic health literally is the most important thing. Any cancers, all these kind of things, not any cancer, chronic illness, insulin resistance, diabetes, thyroid, all these things, the most important thing which contributes to that is metabolic health. Get a free metabolic assessment. The link is in the show notes, right? I'll give you a metabolic score, and then I'll personally follow up with the score and tell you exactly what to do. As soon as you fill it out, you'll know exactly what to do next, and I'll give you the metabolic score and privately message you myself to quickly break down exactly what you need to do. How about that, right? But otherwise, it's guesswork if you don't know where your metabolism is at, right? So links in the show notes. Anyone is welcome to grab that. So click that now, get your score, get your game plan. Also on that note as well, what I'm doing is I'm actually freeing up. I'm giving 2 seats to one of my Inner Circle client calls, which is going to be on Friday, I believe it's the 29th, the last Friday of this month, 9 a.m. Sydney time, which in America will be Thursday the 28th, if I've got the date right there, Thursday the 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern time in America, which is Friday the 29th, 9 a.m. Sydney time. I'm going to give you 2 seats. So if you've been thinking about, I wonder what the program's like, you need clarity, because ultimately that's what it is, right? Most people, they know what to do. Right? You know what to do, but you're not doing it. Why are you not doing it? You haven't got clarity. You haven't got goals and targets to hit. You are too afraid, like what I was just talking about then. You've got a psychological barrier in the way in terms of eating more protein, for example, or just having too much confusion with nutrition. These are the things that are holding you back. And if you jump on this call, you're going to get clarity and you're going to know, meet some of my clients and obviously know what it's like within our tribe. I'm only giving this to 2 people because obviously that's all I'm going to give, basically, right? So if you want to come along to that call, the Inner Circle call, just click the link in the show notes. Put your name in there. First come, first serve. First 2 will get to come along to the client call. All right, question number 2. I know I need to build muscle, speed up my metabolism, and probably reverse diet like you talk about, but I can't seem to do it on my own. The problem is, as soon as the scale goes up a pound or 2, I panic thinking I'm gaining fat, and I go straight back to what I'm doing before. How can I shift my mindset and set some targets so I can stick with it, rebuild metabolism, and finally get to a place where I can keep the fat off for good? I think I got a bit carried away in that first question, and I think I kind of answered some of that, but there's definitely more to this. So let me just kind of expand on what I was talking about. So when you get on the scale and the number goes up on the scale, let's give you an idea of what you can expect. If you're building, again, this is going to depend, but if you're building muscle and that's your goal, it's just to build your metabolism up, right? And set yourself up for long-term success, because ultimately that's what happens when you build muscle. Then, 1 to 2 pounds a month, let's just say, give or take, is going to be suffice gain, right? And this depends, of course, on how much of a reservoir of body fat you've got to lose. Some people have more fat to lose than others, which then means actually their weight doesn't change that much because they're losing a bit of fat, building a bit of muscle. But generally, you want to be okay with your weight either staying the same or going up by like a pound or two, maybe a pound, 2 pounds each month, right? For a period of time whilst you're building muscle. And the thing is, unless you're using other metrics to monitor your progress with your body, then you're just guessing, right? So with my clients, we'll do the body measurements, progress photos. Photos don't lie. The problem with that is when you're taking them yourself is, number one, people have body image issues, right? So it actually ends up demotivating them because they get annoyed with the pictures because they're looking at their body and there's already certain parts they don't like. So that can be a problem for some. But number two, you really don't have anyone to give you that peace of mind, right? So that's why it's good to have someone to just say to you, right, okay, you're on the right tracks, right? You're building. Yeah, all good, Or if you're not, because this can happen, it's some of it's a rational fear. You can gain too much fat. If you're just focusing on building, you want to be gaining, mainly muscle. It should be I'd say twice as much lean body mass, muscle, as you are fat. So even when you're building, your body fat as a percentage might go up a tiny bit or stay roughly the same, but ultimately it should be primarily muscle. It's mainly muscle. And that's why things like a DEXA scan is good to use as well, DEXA, or some other type of body stat thing to use and track. Otherwise, it's just guesswork. So to shift your mindset, number one, that's what I would do, is use different metrics, right? And going back to what I said earlier, it really depends on where you're at. But a lot of people have body dysmorphia and stuff, right? So going back to what I said on the first question, switch your mindset away from it. So you're really focusing on setting performance goals in the gym, getting stronger, paying attention to that. And again, going back to just hammering home and having just relentless consistency with your habits that are going to help you achieve this goal of building muscle and getting stronger. Because to do that is no easy feat. Building muscle is actually really slow, which is why I said a pound or two a month is more than enough. So that's definitely what you want to focus on. So shift the mindset, focus on performance, change the metrics so you're not just looking at the number on the scales. Look at other metrics. You can do your body measurements, photos, those kind of things. Compare them after like say 12 weeks and see, or even every month you could compare them, but that's a bit frequent. So that's definitely what I would say, right? So to keep the fat off for good though as well, I'm going to be honest, like I said on the last episode, right, with my client Jazz doing a 9-month reverse dieting phase. The thing is, as I'm saying this, I can just sense how many people get anxious. You said, what? I'm going to gain twice as much muscle as I gain fat. Oh, I don't want to gain any fat. That's it. It's over. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Right? And I get it. And again, it really does depend. Some people don't gain fat. Some people lose fat reverse dieting because they've got more fat to lose, right? And it might be a bit more novelty for their body. But really, if you do it very slow, it's always better to do this process really slow and steady. Because if you take your time with it, you can do it where you gain hardly any fat, even if you're super lean. If you're super lean, I'm going to tell a lie. If you're super lean, then you got to just accept that you're going to gain a little bit more fat. Because if you're a hard gainer, you got to be a bit more aggressive with it. But most people, it should just be muscle gain. And you should be tracking that, like I said. So that's kind of my answer to that, long story short. And what I would say on that as well is definitely follow my reverse diet guide. I think I might have included that in the last episode, ladies and gents, as well. Check the last couple of episodes. One of them is in there. Get that and just follow that strategically. And again, you might want to come along to the call, right, that I've got on the 29th, on Friday the 29th. Come along to that. And then, because it's all good me telling you this on podcast, ladies and gents, but it's good to get different perspectives. So like, for example, my clients are there, you'll have an opportunity to chop it up with them, right? And then they will be sharing their perspective, having actually gone through the process or similar processes, right? Because, a lot of them do that metabolic kickstart at the start. That's my first phase. So come along to that call, right? The link is in the show notes there. So that's what I would say. It is all just your own worst enemy. Don't focus on the body too much. Focus on getting stronger, set targets there, and ultimately use other metrics other than just the scales. That's kind of my best advice there as well. I wouldn't really, if you keep starting, then just ask yourself this question, right? What will happen if I keep repeating this cycle? You've probably been in this cycle for a number of years, gain a pound, gain 2 pounds or whatever. You're probably making progress, by the way. You could well be building muscle, getting stronger. Oh, panic. And don't forget, that's another thing I like to tie up here as well, is when you actually gain, it's not measurable in terms of body composition on the scales. You don't gain fat fast unless you're eating loads in a huge surplus, right? A gigantic surplus. You're not going to gain fat fast. It's not going to be anything measurable. Think about it, right? You eat more food to build muscle, for example. You're likely having more sodium just because you're eating more food. maybe having more carbohydrates as well. You've got more mass going into your body, right? Which has got to go somewhere. So ultimately that will change the number on the scales because it's extra mass in the body, to put it simply. More fluid, more mass, potentially even more carbs, like I said, which changes the number on the scale, right, sometimes. But yeah, you've got to stick at it for longer as well when it comes to rebuilding your metabolism. People go, oh, 4 weeks. No, you've spent years living a certain way. It takes longer, right? There's discipline and consistency, which is obviously the key. But you need to apply that. But without patience along the way and mental fortitude, and like I say, sometimes having someone to guide you through it, it's very hard to do on your own, long story short. But that's kind of my best advice for that question. Just trying to think if I've missed anything now. And to rebuild your metabolism as well, you got to kind of monitor that as well, because it's like, have a strategy. Just take my reverse dieting guide, right? I wasn't just talk forever. Just grab that. It's all in there. I'm not going to keep repeating myself on that, right? I think it's in the last episode of the one before. Just click it. It's yours. All right. Third and last question. I would like to do more, but only got time for 3. So I'm a 48-year-old. This is one for the men, but hey, ladies, listen to you. You're going to get some value from this. I'm a 48-year-old dad with 2 kids. They're 2 and 4, and I run an online consultancy business. Ever since my first was born, my training's been less consistent. I've been sleeping less, and over the last few years, I've gained a few inches around my waist that I can't shift. Before kids, I could clean my diet up, hit the gym 4 to 5 times a week, add in some hits, and the fat would come off. But now, I might lose an inch, then I gain 2 back. Okay, and he finishes off with, what's going wrong here? Do I need to get my hormones checked, or is there something else I should be doing? Firstly, yes, 48 years old, regardless of age, actually, I would get bloods done, hormones done. I think as you get older, you should get it done more frequently, to be honest. So definitely be doing that anyway, getting your bloods done, getting your hormones checked. I'm not sure where you live. Sometimes it's better to do this private. There's companies that do it here in Australia, for example. You pay a bit extra and you can actually click which hormones you want done. For example, when I went to get mine done here, and I went to do them just the normal doctors, I had to make out, I went to the doctors, right? Not to go off too much, but I went in there and I had to make out that I had no libido, that I was bloody everything was going wrong. Basically, my health was going downhill, just so I could get the full spectrum of tests. You know what I mean? So hopefully you don't have to do that, but you do definitely want to get them all done. Number 1, get your bloods done every 6 months or so, maybe even more frequent than that. Get the hormones done as well. Get your testosterone done. Get your free testosterone as well. That's the important one. Total test is important. Free testosterone is what's actually available and being used by the body. And then estrogen, even estradiol, all those sex hormones you want to get done, my man, right? And just your bloods in general. Blood glucose, obviously your lipids. Get the full spectrum as much as you can get done and keep on top of that. Thyroid as well, definitely T3. Get all that done so you know where you're at. And to be honest, you don't even need me to explain it here. You got ChatGPT to bloody break it down for you anyway, right? You got no excuse for that. Get that done regular. But look, here's what's likely going on here, right? Number 1, you got a 2 and your 4-year-old, right? That's more stress. And ultimately, you said you can lose a bit, then you gain more weight back. You've slowly been gaining weight on your waist. So what's happened is number 1, you've probably slowed down, right? Because we always say as we get older that, as you get older, you get into your 40s, it gets harder, and it's not the same. Which there's some truth to the fact that your body changes, your testosterone levels drop and stuff as a man. Yes, but you may have slowed down. Now, what happens, for example, when you had the 2 young kids, maybe you weren't getting as much sleep. And what happens is people don't realize this, there's research on it, and I see it with clients. When you're not getting as much sleep, you're probably more stressed as well, right? You've got an online business. I know what it's like to run your own business, my man. That's hard within itself, let alone 2 kids. You probably just stop moving, stop being as active, right? That's number 1. You probably slowed down within that period in terms of your daily movement. I see that happen a lot because people say, I'm training a lot. I can do the 5 sessions. I can do the hits. And then you look at their daily movement throughout the day and they've actually stopped moving as much, or they're just not doing many steps at all. So monitor that. Go back to what I said earlier. Get a Fitbit or get a wrist piece and just do as many steps as you can, number 1, throughout the daytime, because that's your biggest opportunity to burn calories. If you're a consultant, I'm assuming you're sedentary. So you have to factor that into your day. Or even just move more around the house, whatever you got to do, park further away from work, however that looks like for you. That's number 1, right? It's not that you sometimes they say I slow down, things slow down as I age. You slow down normally, right? That's 1. But 2, we got to look at what's going on here with training and why is your body not responding? Why are you gaining body fat? So metabolic adaptation. Your metabolism, as you get older and as you've had more stress coming in, your metabolism is likely adapted, right? So metabolic adaptation, where it sounds like your body, you're burning less, you're probably burning less, maybe manually from not moving as much. Your manual opportunity to move throughout the day has probably dropped. But two, your BMR, your resting metabolic rate is likely slowed down because of stress as well, right? So you've had more stress. If you look at that in a simple way, last 4 years, you said this has happened since you've had kids, more stress, probably sleep's been impacted at times. What's going to happen there? Higher cortisol, lower testosterone. Seesaw effect, testosterone, cortisol, like this. Cortisol's up, test's going to be lower, vice versa. So that within itself as well, just having elevated cortisol is linked to higher belly fat, higher amount of belly fat. But that would have impacted the decision with food as well, right? So metabolic rate, again, going back to what I said, you need to get the training stimulus right. So it's not about doing more. In this case with this guy, yes, more movement is going to help. But I don't know how many steps you're doing, but more movement always helps for most people. But two, you need to get the right dose of intensity and volume with your training. Less is more for this person. I already know, 4 or 5 times a week, hit, blah, 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 doing less. If you've done 3 purposeful full body sessions, again, if you want to go back and get my bloody training program in the last episode, 3 purposeful full body sessions a week, done properly, right? And make sure you're getting enough sleep and recovery. That will get you way better results than what you're doing in the past, and stay consistent with that. No longer than an hour per session for you, my man, as well. 45 minutes to an hour, that's enough. Again, cortisol, stress hormones elevate if you're in the gym for too long. So that's the other things I would say. Then we're going to look at diet, obviously, right? So what's going on with diet? I don't really know. You said you could clean up your diet. So ultimately, we want to really prep meals. We want to be hitting protein again. It comes down to that. If you can do strength training appropriately again and get the right stimulus, full body's great because it's hard to get imbalancements and skip body parts when you're doing the whole body 3 times per week. And then make sure you're doing the right dose of volume so you're not overdoing it. Any more than for this guy, I'd say any more than about 10 to 12 sets a week on each body part is going to be excessive. Say 8 to 12 sets per body part per week. So that's 3 to 4 sets per body part each session. Again, follow the training program to get that right. And then you need to monitor your stress. I would say cortisol as well. I would say ashwagandha would be a good supplement for you. So that buffers cortisol and increases testosterone levels. That would be a good supplement. Make sure you're taking creatine as well. And that's what I would do, my man. Really focus on that. Definitely get the hormones checked. Lay off the hits and just keep it less, as they say, right? Low intensity cardio, which is just walking essentially. And it's hard to go wrong. Do that for 12 weeks. Make sure you're prepping your meals, so you're getting enough lean quality sources of protein in, whole foods, 90% whole foods. And it's quite hard to go wrong. But again, you'll benefit from my metabolic assessment so you can see where you're at and exactly what you need to do. Obviously, I'm giving you more advice based on what I've got here, but I'm not giving you specifics here, right? Because I haven't got enough information. So that's what I would say in a nutshell, ladies and gents. Anyway, so check out this next episode. This next episode is another Q&A that I did where I talked about carnivore versus keto for results and some other stuff which is relative to this episode anyway. So click the link in the show notes if you want to come along to my Inner Circle client call. And if you want a free metabolic assessment. All right. Speak soon, legends.